This institution is an equal opportunity provider.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the last and final episode of the 4-H Summer Youth Podcast. And for one final time, I am here with...
Hey, this is Margaret Todd. I go by Megan. I am a senior legal specialist with the Agricultural Law Education Initiative. It's great to be back.
It's great to have you. So what is the topic for today?
Yeah, so today we're going to wrap up the series with a discussion on some basic considerations to keep in mind for small and medium-sized business owners on using social media platforms as part of their marketing and advertising strategies.
Okay, so social media. I've always thought social media was for like oversharing stuff with friends and like cute cat pictures or something like that. So like, what does it have to do with online sales?
Yeah, well, I think, everybody's on social media these days. And, maybe if you're kind of like in the veteran user, you might remember a time when social media was just like your friends and people that you wanted to like keep in touch with. And then slowly, as the years went on, you started to see like the ads in the corners, and now you see the ads like interspersed in your reel or like your wall, like as you scroll through. And now it's like every other thing is like an advertisement, right?
Right.
So yeah, advertising on social media is like the new trend because people are there. They're not just watching TV and taking in commercials or reading the newspaper and looking at ads. Like social media is the place to advertise. For paid advertisements too, but also having a presence, like your own business account on social media is huge to just increase exposure of your business and helping customers find you, right? People go online and search if they're interested in finding local fruits and vegetables or a local business. They're going to search an internet browser or the maps to see what's close to them, but they might also go to like a Facebook or Instagram and search there to find a business that they want to, look into. So it's a real thing. I think it's definitely a lucrative avenue for marketing and advertising for especially those small and mid-sized businesses. I mean, every size business really, right? What am I talking about? But like for those ones that are like focusing on direct marketing to those customers, not doing like wholesale farm, fruits and vegetables. It's huge. People will go to your page. They're going to follow you. They want to see pictures of you like out in your field or like taking care of your animals. It's going to make them feel more connected to you as a business owner and as a business, and just like really kind of create some more loyalty, I think. So it's huge. Social media usage is a huge thing for businesses these days.
Okay, so before we get even further into that, do we have any disclaimers or anything like that we want to share?
Oh, thank you. Yes. I forgot about that. I do need to make a disclosure. Like I mentioned, I work for the Agricultural Law Education Initiative through the University of Maryland, Baltimore. And we actually, ALEI as a whole has legal specialists from College Park campus and from the Eastern Shore campus. And what we do is focused on providing education and educational resources to Maryland's agricultural community. We do not represent clients. We do not give legal advice. So everything I'll talk about today, I might, talk about some laws and like what the rules are and regulations for you to keep in mind to legally run your business and your marketing activities online. But it's all educational only. Do not construe it as legal advice, even if it sounds really similar to what you're doing. If you do want legal advice on your specific operation, we always recommend for folks to go out and work with an attorney, a licensed attorney. And if you're in Maryland, the Maryland State Bar Association does have an agricultural law section that put out a directory recently, which I've mentioned in the past three podcasts also. We'll link to it. But it's a really great resource because I know there's tons of lawyers out there and there's a ton of different fields in the law. So, for farmers specifically, especially if you're looking for a lawyer to help you with a specific topic, this directory will help you find the one that you need.
All right, thank you. And speaking of laws and rules, I feel like social media can be kind of wild. I don't know. If you look in the news, there's always something about like regulation or lack thereof sometimes. So, are there rules of what I can and cannot do on social media?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, always. Yeah, it is pretty wild out there, right? People put all kinds of stuff out on social media. Like,
Right.
why would you do that? But thinking about it in a more conservative way as a business owner, I think you want to cover your bases, reduce your liability exposures as much as possible in every aspect of your business, and that includes your marketing and advertising activities. And when you're taking it to the online platforms, you're just increasing your potential exposure. So you definitely have to take a closer look at what you're doing and how you could potentially expose yourself liability wise. So some of the rules, there definitely are rules on what you can and cannot do. I think the first place that people usually would want to start is kind of going to the social media platforms' terms of use. Um, each platform is going to be different. I know Facebook and Instagram are like the same company now, but they might have separate types of terms of use. So if you're going to be running, have a business page where you intend to do marketing and advertising activities, it makes sense to sit down, take some time to read those terms of use. I know they can be long and hard to read, like nobody wants to. But it's actually, and it's usually like kind of like when you sign up for your account, right? You create it and like, did you read the terms of use? And you just click the box and you just move on with your life.
Yeah.
But like thankfully they do have it posted on their website too. So like when you find more time, and you're not in a rush, you can revisit those terms of use. And they do have it in a kind of not because they are so long, right? They do have like an index kind of set up now. So you can just jump to the section that you want to look at. I would recommend people take a closer look at the privacy sections and the intellectual property rights sections specifically, because I think a lot of what people can and cannot do kind of on social media, outside of those truth and advertising principles that we talked about during the first or second podcast, I believe. So outside of that, a lot of the cans and cannot do on social media is going to be kind of around the copyright protections. So we did talk about some of the basics behind copyright law, again, during one of those first two podcasts. But just a real quick recap there is that copyright protections, it's basically like a bundle of rights that are automatically created once you create any like an art, or it could be art, it could be a photograph, it could be like you write a song, you write a newsletter article, whatever you create, you're the author, and just by creating it and publishing it, you have those rights. You don't have to like go and do an extra thing. You can if you want to register with the Copyright Office, but you don't have to. But because we are in the age of like everything's online now, it's very easy to kind of just find something that you like somewhere and be like, I love this picture and I want to share it with people on my page because I think they're going to like it too. And it can be really tempting to do that. But if you do that without doing the proper steps first, that could be considered copyright infringement. And you want to avoid that. So when you create anything, one of the ways that you can, and I'm going to go into this, I'm going to segue and then I'm going to come right back to it. Okay. But when you create something, you hold those rights, and usually you're going to put somebody on notice that that material that you've created is yours by either putting like a watermark on it or doing that little copyright, like the C and the circle next to it with your author information and like the date or the year that you created it, and a notice that, people can share it with attribution, or people cannot share it without a license. Like you're putting them on notice where that is. So if you turn around and you see something that you want to share with your users that somebody else authored, the steps that you want to take are, asking, like every time you do this, you want to like maybe ask that person for permission to use it. If it's not evident from where you found the source that it's allowed to be reshared. So, you ask permission, they said, yeah, please feel free to share with your network, right? I think people, a lot of times, like they're open to the idea of having their content be more widely distributed, right? Because they are also then including increasing their exposure. But part of that is going to be attributing to the original author and linking back to that original source. So copyright protections is going to be one of those big things. And I think on social media specifically, like social media platforms have been known to disallow copyright infringement activities. So if they get notified that you're infringing on somebody else's copyright, they're going to like take down that content. And you might have, if you do it enough times, there might be like, more long-term repercussions on your ability to use that social media platform at all. And just to keep it from the legal side of it, the law that allows a social media platform to do that, and keep the platform itself is protected from any kind of liability for an infringement activity. Instead it's called a notice and takedown system, where they notify the user that infringed and say that if you don't take it down, we're going to do it for you. That's the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, for anybody who wants to read more back on that. So yeah, that's the main thing. There are other rules related to advertisements, like endorsements and giveaways also. But the last thing I wanted to say about images before we go on to that, I think for social media, one of the biggest appeal of social media marketing is that it does help you connect with your customer on a more intimate level, I think, because you can share with them like what you're doing on a daily basis or what your events are coming up. Even if you wanted to share like more personal information with your customers, you could do it on a social media platform, right? And kind of along with that is like if you do have an event on your farm or your business and you're taking pictures and you want to share it with your followers, do those pictures contain images of customers that are on your farm that you have gotten permission or a waiver to share their personal image with the rest of the world? So that's just another thing to keep in mind when we talk about images and posting photos and things like that on your page. So some options to kind of manage that would be to, if you have an event that requires like a ticket or registration, as part of the registration page, kind of like having that notification that like we may take pictures of this event, and by registering, you are giving us permission to use your image, potentially use your image on our social media platform. So by signing up, they've kind of like agreed to that already. And if they really object, then they can contact you to have it taken down, for instance, just a way to protect you as your business and not have any surprises. Or you can just approach them directly if they're on the farm and you saw a really sweet moment and you're like, I really want to put this picture of you and your child like petting my farm animal on our page. Just approach them directly and ask for permission. That's also an option. So.
Yeah. So that sounds like it's definitely very important. We don't want to infringe on anybody's consent or anything in that manner. Mm-hmm. You mentioned giveaways. Like giveaways, they're definitely a really great way to spread public awareness. I know one of the first giveaways that really caught my attention was a Chick-fil-A giveaway they were doing. It was a couple years ago, but you had to like repost a story they had and you get like a free year of Chick-fil-A. Mm-hmm. And me and like 80% of my friends all did it. None of us have free Chick-fil-A, but it got the word around. So are there any rules or regulations for what you can and can't do for giveaways?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so sad about the free Chick-fil-A. I'm sad for you.
I'm always sad about that.
Yeah, but in terms of giveaways, contests, there definitely, of course, are rules and regulations around that. Whether it's on social media or not, right? Regardless of the platform, there's going to be regulations both on the federal and state levels. Again, I feel like I sound like a broken record at this time, but the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, has some wonderful guidance for small business owners to help them really understand what they need to do, what they can't do, and kind of give it in like a nice manual checklist format. And I'll go over some of that today, but for anybody who's listening that wants to like have something to read, they can go there. But basically on the federal level, the FTC provides rules and limitations for like those promotional giveaways. And there's 3 different types. So like there's like a sweepstakes, there's a contest, and there's a lottery. And they're all different. So a sweepstakes is like the winner sends like their contact, like they're just chosen randomly. It's like a drawing, right? You put your name in there, you draw it from a hat, you win. A contest is something that is like the winner is chosen by either the skill they display or a judge will give them like you're the best picture. Like you have a photo contest of like, can you send me the cutest picture of a kid eating ice cream, like from my store, right? And so who's going to judge who's the cutest kid? I don't know, right? And then you have lottery. So like the winner is chosen at random after they pay to enter. So like lottery is pretty straightforward. Important thing to note, I will just say off the bat, for Maryland specifically, there's no pay to play like sweepstakes or contests allowed in the state. A lottery is different. But if you're as a business owner, if you're going to be running a contest, it's going to be either like something you judge or a sweepstakes where they just like do the thing, their name gets drawn out of a hat, right? But either way, whichever kind of contest or giveaway that the business is running, the federal rules have to be clearly followed. And so some of those are like, what is the prize? Like clearly indicate in your giveaway description what the prize is, how many are available, and what the retail value is. So, what is it they're going to enter and like, is it worth their time, right? Basically. What are the open and close dates for your contest or your giveaway? What are the deadlines? When is it going to be given away? What are the odds of winning? Or is it, if it's depending on the number of entries, then, like a sweepstakes, for instance, giving that information to consumers. And then again, and more information about when and how that winner is going to be selected. If there's like, these are like the official rules or consumer disclosures. And oftentimes, like you might consider creating a landing page. So you're going to have a post on social media maybe, and then also on your website. So maybe if you have a social media post about your giveaway, you're going to be using hashtags like hashtag giveaway or hashtag contest, right? To like clearly indicate to the person who sees that post that it's for a giveaway. And you don't have to put like all of your official rules or like all the information right there because the post can be a little bit too long at that point.
Right.
But you can just link to your website, like your landing page. What else? Yeah. Oh, and then not every state. So be really clear about like who are the eligible contestants or who's eligible to enter for your giveaway. So if it's like 18 and older only or 21 and older only, because if it's alcohol, I don't know if you can do alcohol actually, but so scratch that part. But like if there's an age, 18 and over usually is the case. Some states don't allow giveaways. So if it's only for Maryland residents, then make it clear to anybody who's looking at that page, it's only for Maryland residents. So if you're from Pennsylvania and you enter in this business sweepstakes, you're not going to win, even if you get drawn. Like, other things to consider related to giveaways, privacy policy information. You're going to be collecting people's names, potentially other information about them, because sometimes part of the contest might be like you said, like this post and share it with like 10 people, right? And so when you do that, you kind of like give some information about you and your network away to that business. And so just kind of like having a privacy policy related to how you're handling the data that, the names of the people that are entering into your giveaway. Yeah, and then hashtags I already talked about. And then the last thing, two last things actually. So again, we're talking about social media platforms. So double checking with your social media platform in their terms of use or their terms of service. Like, do they have specific rules in place for how you manage those contests or giveaways? And then just sort of like a practical, not related to social media, but like practical tip on giveaways is like, if the value of the prize that you're giving away is over $600, you're going to have to issue a 1099 tax form to your winner.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So those are the things that are related to giveaways.
Okay.
I will say I didn't go over a lot of detail earlier, but even just advertising itself on social media requires a few extra steps too that I want to make sure that the listeners are aware of. Like I did mention like the Federal Fair Trade Act, or Truth in Advertising Act, sorry, that we talked about a few podcasts ago. And I think on social media, one of the primary ways of advertising is sort of like word of mouth, and that's like endorsements or user reviews, comments on your page, things like that. And there are rules and regulations around what you can and cannot do for endorsements and ads like that too. So I think disclosure is key here. So first of all, if you're going to have an ad on social media, it's important to do like the hashtag. I don't know if hashtags are really standard nowadays for every platform.
Yeah, they've kind of gone out of fashion a little bit, but they still use them from time to
How
time.
did I not know this? Because I'm not on social media a whole lot.
I do want to say, for anyone who isn't already aware, can you just define FTC?
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. Federal Trade Commission.
Federal Trade Commission. Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Thank you for that.
No, it's just one of those like odd ones where it's like it could be 2 or 3 different things, and just need to clarify.
No, yeah, and it's true. Like I read about it a lot, so for me, it's just like okay, yeah, it's the FTC,
Right.
But yeah, Federal Trade Commission is the federal agency, regulatory agency that handles or oversees a lot of the consumer protection laws. And part of that is, so if you hear of like a huge company like violating a truth in advertising or like they're doing deceptive or unfair trade activities, it's the FTC that's going to go after them. And they've got a newsletter. So if you ever wanted to like, stay up to date
Right.
on what those are, you could get the email. But they've got a lot of really great guidance out that's really easy to read. But yeah, so back to advertisements and on social media. So hashtags, whatever the word thing you use nowadays to like indicate, you have to indicate clearly in your post that it's an advertisement or it's sponsored content. So this is probably going to come up more often if you have somebody else endorse your product or your business on social media platform. And I think the term that we use is like influencer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to be an influencer or like a celebrity, though, for you to need to use this disclosure that it's a sponsored content. So it could be like, okay, let me just talk about it. So, so anytime you are giving away a product with the intent, like here, I made this like new type of cookie. Will you try it, Isaac? And then post a review?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. So if you put a review on my page and be like, these are the best cookies I've ever eaten, you have to be like, I got this cookie for free in exchange for a review.
Hashtag spons, hashtag ad.
Yes, exactly. You're catching on. So anytime you give somebody something away with the intent of getting a review back, definitely. But if there's like even a connection there, like it's your employee or they've got a personal connection or a family relationship with the brand, that's going to be considered an endorsement, and then it has to be disclosed as a sponsored or advertisement. So just keep that in mind when we're doing like online marketing. It's going to be considered paid, needs that disclosure. And I think this is kind of it struggles a little bit because if you're whether it's like an influencer or somebody you know personally, whichever the case may be, they're going to be the one at the end of the day creating their post, right? And you can like reshare it, whatever, but they're going to be creating that post. That does not absolve the business owner who paid for that endorsement to like be like, hey, my hands are clean. Like they can say whatever they want to say. No, you have to like go and you have to look at that post and make sure that they are also complying with those truth in advertising principles we talked about before, that they're adequately disclosing that it is an ad or sponsored content. So yeah, you have to go as a business owner and follow up on their post to make sure that it's complying with the law. And if it's not, ask them to edit the post so that it is accurate and compliant. Or if, or take it down, redo it somehow. So that's on the business owner, just to make sure that they're not making any false or misleading statements for the consumer to potentially misunderstand what it is that you're selling or what it does, stuff like that. Yeah. Now, on the other hand, if you have review programs, again, like if it's a review on your website, same principle applies. Like if you gave it away for them to write a review on the webpage, it should be disclosed in the comment itself that they received the product for free or something in exchange for getting their review posted, and whether or not it's negative or positive, like whatever kind of review they give you, just disclosing that it was paid. I will say that you can ask customers about their experiences to get, like, either with your product, around your farm, at your business, whatever it is. You can ask them for that information, and then you can feature it on your webpage or on your social media platform if it's positive, right? And if they have like no reason at all to expect that they're going to be getting something for free from you in exchange for that comment, you can post it, and it doesn't have to be an ad. It's not an ad at all, right? It's not sponsored, because before they gave the comment to you, they had no expectation of receiving anything. So, and then afterward, if they give you a really great glowing review, be like, oh, I'm so happy that you gave me this review. You can have like a free year of entry, whatever. It doesn't matter, but they gave it to you honestly without expectation. So that's just something that's the other side of that paid endorsement.
Right. So let's say that I use endorsements properly, I use giveaways properly, I grow a strong online presence, and all of a sudden, from this audience, I start getting some internet, like, trolls, or I get some not so nice comments. Is there anything I can do to get rid of that from, like, I don't know, how can I stop that from harming my brand? Or is there anything I could do to get rid of them?
What are you talking about? Only nice people are online.
Yeah.
Trolls. Yeah. No matter what you do, you can't please everybody, right? There's always going to be some unhappy customers out there, unfortunately. I think the most important thing to remember I have 4 things to say about this mostly, but, first is like social media platforms. First of all, like, you can request to block a user if they're using like negative or inappropriate language. They're kind of harassing you. That's the beauty of like a social media platform, right? You can report inappropriate activity and prevent them from continuing to do that on your social media presence. You could, if it's like a comment on your page, and you really want to engage and see what happened, like what went wrong with this customer, the important thing there is to just really remember to respect or engage with them respectfully. Like, you can't sue somebody just because they gave you a bad review. Like, there is a law. There's actually is a law. It's called the Consumer Review Fairness Act. So this does protect people's ability to share their honest opinions about a business's products or services or conduct in any forum. So they can do it online. Like, it's their right to do so, to share bad experiences. But like I said, so just if they're being inappropriate, you can block them on the social media terms of service, terms of use grounds, right? But otherwise, just engage with them respectfully. Don't harass them. Don't give them another like civil, another route against you, because how you're going to respond to them is probably going to really impact how other people view your business and whether or not they want to give you business in the future. Because there's always the possibility you could repair whatever went wrong for that customer. And I think we're going to get into a little bit. I want to talk about, having some tips for how people can do this. But one thing for social media specifically is to think about whether or not as a business you want to allow comments on your page, right? And because you don't have to. I mean, I think it does help with bringing business in, because I know as a consumer myself, like I will read the comments and I will read people's reviews to say like, okay, this has a good track record. You know, they respond really quickly to these comments. But if it's not there, like that won't necessarily like deter me, right? So if it's going to be too much for you to manage, then just kind of like forego the whole experience altogether.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, it's good to know that you can kind of turn off all comments, especially if you don't have like an active social media manager. And managing comments could totally be like a full-time job, you know. There's a lot going on there. So to keep on, you know, in the same direction as that tip on blocking of comments, do you have any general tips for social media use and then doing so in a compliant manner?
Yes. Yeah, I think it would make sense for business owners who do engage on social media or even online, really, in any platform, to consider putting together a social media policy or online marketing policy for themselves. Well, for themselves and for their employees. And I think just kind of like from a business management stance, it makes sense. Like I was saying, especially in the farming context, you know, like farmers are going to have these standard operating procedures in place for their employees and themselves to know like what to do during harvest or how to clean and sanitize equipment, you know, whatever it may be, like they're going to have SOPs. And so I think they should have something similar for social media, managing their social media presence or online presence. And I think for anybody, any business owner who's written an SOP or like employee handbook information, you know, it might just be like, oh, it's another thing I have to do, like so much paperwork. But, you know, it's just like in the employee handbook or whatever it is, it just helps you in case there's a question or something went wrong, you have something back to refer back to. So in the social media context, you might want to think about like controlling access. This is, of course, the case. Like you would on the farm, you would have restricted areas like staff or employees only can access this area. So the same thing should apply to your like online accounts too. Like who do you want accessing that user end, like the back end of your online sales platform or your social media accounts? Like who are you going to allow to post for you as your business? Is it just going to be just yourself, which is totally fine if you have the time for it. But if you need an employee to help you with that, then making sure that employee knows, like, do not give this login information away to anybody else. Like, you know, don't write it on the computer and stick it on the computer for you to like remember. Keep your password and your login information in a secure location. You know, like you can write it. I think you can write it down physically. Like hackers aren't going to be like in your office.
Just rifling through your notepad.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's not like a Jason Bourne movie, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, but for the most part, like you can write it someplace, like not in front of your computer. Anyway, but like having that kind of noted down somewhere in a manual for your employees to know, like what can they do, what can they not do. Maybe having some guidelines around the type of content that you want to share on social media. So like this is sort of like a branding type consideration. Like maybe and if you share a picture on your social media, you always want there to be like a cow in the background and then your logo like in the corner. That's sort of like a standard format that your employees know, like regardless of whoever it is, will know that that's what you want on your social media and that's what you want customers to associate with your brand. So things like that, you know, maybe again, these hashtags, whatever it is that is popular, however we like tag that information nowadays, having those kind of standardized, because I think at some point in my experience, people have used those as like a search term to like locate a trend or a product or whatever it may be. So if you want to have those standardized and maybe have somebody in place who kind of stays up to date on what those trends are and can suggest new ones, and if there's an approval process and who has to sign off on what gets posted, things like that. And then again, like I said, the moderating and responding to comments or questions on either the webpage or social media platform. Just having, a policy in place so that you know, like every day at 4 o'clock, I'm gonna be responding to things or checking things, or whoever's gonna do it. You know who's in charge, so that customers don't get ignored, and then it reflects badly on your business. And I'm sure there's other things. Again, I would say FTC is a great place to go to get more guidelines on like how to like effectively manage your social media, marketing and advertising strategies. But from a security standpoint, really controlling access is, I think, probably key.
All right. And then I am out of questions. Is there anything that you'd want to talk a bit more about, or anything that we didn't cover that you think should be?
No, I think I rambled on quite a bit about everything I wanted to ramble on about today.
All right. Well, then,
If anybody has questions, though, they can feel free to reach out to me directly. You know, I mentioned the FTC guidelines, and there's Maryland stuff, so we'll have that linked. umaglelaw.org is the website where ALEI has all of our resources. My email address will be there as well. And that's MOTOD like David, D like David, at law.u Maryland spelled out, .edu. So I'm happy to get emails.
all right. Well, I want to thank you for being with us for this 4-episode podcast series. It's been an absolute pleasure to record. I also want to give considerations for the last 2 episodes. We want to thank the Maryland Horse Library in Reisterstown for giving us the space and the podcast equipment that you are now hearing the wonderful quality of, hopefully on YouTube or Spotify, whichever you're listening on. And thank you for joining us. And this is Isaac signing out.
Yeah, thanks. This is Megan, and it was a pleasure being here. Thank you for the invitation. I had a lot of fun.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.